10 lesser known facts about the Holy Bible that many people may not be aware of. Welcome to this enlightening journey into the depths of one of the most revered and studied books in human history, the Bible. You may think you know it well, but today we're going to dive into 10 lesser known facts that will make you rethink what you thought you understood about this sacred text. From its intricate compilations of diverse authors across centuries and the hidden gems within its pages, get ready to explore facets of the Bible that are often overshadowed or equally fascinating. I had so much fun preparing this lesson, and my number 10 favorite thing is at the end, which is I was like, wowzer for this. So I pray that you find some great information in what I'm sharing today, and let me know your thoughts. Number 1, seamless compilation. When you pick up a Bible, you might see it as a single, unified book. But did you know that it's actually more like a library in the palm of your hands? We're talking about 66 individual books, and that's just in the Protestant canon. These works were handed over an astounding span of approximately 1,500 years by around 40 different authors. And we're not talking about just religious scholars. The authors range from shepherds and fishermen to kings and prophets. Now, think about the coordination that it implies. Different cultures, different languages, and different historical contexts all converse into one single cohesive narrative. Compilation seamlessly weaves together poetry, history, law, and prophecy. Imagine the challenge of ensuring thematic consistency and theological coherency across such a vast timeline and amongst such diverse authors. It's like a grand orchestra with 40 conductors over centuries. Yet the symphony that they created harmonizes beautifully. This isn't just a book, it's a monumental achievement in literary history, spiritual instruction, and even project management. If you think about it, every time you open its pages, you're not just reading text. You're stepping into a centuries-old conversation about the human experience and the divine. Number 2, unknown authors. Some books in the Bible, like Hebrews and the New Testament, have unknown authors. Various theories exist, but there's no consensus. When we read a book today, we almost always who wrote it. The author's name is right there on the cover. But did you know that some books of the Bible don't have that luxury? Take the New Testament, book of Hebrews. For instance, it's a fascinating text full of rich theological insight, but its author remains a mystery. Over the years, various theories have been proposed. Was it Paul, Apollos, or perhaps even Priscilla? The debate goes on. There's no definitive answers. The anonymity adds an intriguing layer of complexity to these texts. In some ways, it allows the message to stand on its own without the influence of the author's identity. It also invites readers to engage more deeply with the text of itself rather than focusing on the credibility or intentions of the person who wrote it. So, who wrote Hebrews or the other anonymous books? We may never know. It's in his hands, and that's okay. In a world where we often equate knowledge with power, the unknown authors of the Bible remind us that sometimes the message is more important than the messenger. It invites us to approach these texts with humility, openness, and a sense of wonder. Number 3, inclusive language. Some of the oldest biblical texts are surprisingly gender inclusive. For example, the term Adam referred to humankind rather than a single man. In today's conversations about gender equality and inclusivity, you might be surprised to learn that some of the oldest biblical texts were ahead of their time in this regard. Take the term Adam. For example, while most people think of Adam as the first man, the original Hebrew word actually means humankind. That's right. It's a collective term encompassing both men and women. This detail is not just a linguistic curiosity. It has profound implications for how we understand the biblical narrative and its approach to human identity. It suggests that from the very beginning, the focus was on the unity and equality of all people, rather than distinguishing or prioritizing based on gender. This inclusivity is not limited to the term Adam. Many other passages, when read in their original languages and culture context, offer a more nuanced view of gender roles and social hierarchies than commonly perceived. In a world where words can build barriers, the original language of these ancient texts breaks them down, reminding us that when it comes to our shared humanity, we are more alike than we are different. Number 4, nonlinear timelines. Have you ever read a book that bounces back and forth in time, leaving you to piece together the story? Well, the Bible does something similar, but on a grand scale. Contrary to popular beliefs, the books of the Bible are not arranged in chronological order. Instead, they are grouped primarily by literary style, history, poetry, prophecy, letters, and so on. This nonlinear structure can be a bit like a time travel journey. One moment you're in ancient Egypt with Moses, and the next you're fast forwarding to the Greco-Roman world of the New Testament. But here's what's interesting. This organization actually enhances the thematic text. It invites you to make connections across different periods and context, to see how themes of redemption, justice, and human nature weave throughout the tapestry of time. Understanding this non-linear arrangement is crucial for anyone diving deep into biblical studies. It guides your interpretation and lets you appreciate the complexities of the ancient text. It's a bit like reading a complex novel, where the structure itself becomes part of the message. Number 5, lost books. There are lost books and letters mentioned within the Bible itself that we no longer have access to, such as the Book of the Wars of the Lord, Numbers 21:14, and Paul's earlier Corinthian letter, 1 Corinthians 5:9. Imagine reading a gripping novel and suddenly finding a footnote mentioning another book that holds critical information. But that book is lost to history. That's exactly the case with the Bible. It references text that we simply don't have today. For instance, in Numbers 21:14, there's a citation of the words of the Lord, a text that, as far as we know, has been lost in time. Similarly, in 1 Corinthians 5:9, Paul mentions an earlier letter he wrote to the Corinthians that we don't have in our modern Bible. The idea of these lost texts raises intriguing questions. What did they contain? How would they change our understanding of the existing scripture? While some might see these gaps as imperfections, they can also be seen as an invitation to dig deeper, to explore the rich, sometimes incomplete tapestry of religious and historical text that surrounds the Bible. These lost books remind us that the Bible is part of a larger religious and historical landscape, one with gaps and missing pieces that invites ongoing exploration and study. Who knows? Maybe future discoveries might yet bring these lost texts to light. Number 6, numerical symbolism. In everyday life, numbers are usually just practical tools for counting and measuring. But in the Bible, they take on layers of deeper meaning, functioning almost like a hidden language of symbolism. Take the number 40, for example. To most of us, it's just a number, but in the biblical context, it often represents a period of testing, trials, or transformation. This numerical symbolism isn't accidental or arbitrary. It's a purposeful way to connect different stories and themes across the biblical narrative. When you encounter the number 40 in different contexts, you're prompted to think, this is a time of testing or significant change. But 40 is just one example. Numbers like 7, 12, and 3 also carry special meanings. From divine completeness to organizational structures to the concept of the Trinity. Understanding these numerical symbols adds a rich layer of interpretation, enhancing the depth and complexity of the text. Number 7, no original manuscripts. How can we trust a book without its originals? The answer lies in vigorous scholarly methods in the sheer numbers of ancient copies and translations that exist. Scholars use these tools to cross-reference and reconstruct the text, aiming to get as close as possible to the originals. The absence of the originals manuscripts has its own kind of allure. It injects a sense of mystery and invites intellectual and spiritual exploration. How did these texts survive centuries of political upheaval, natural disasters, and human error? The journey to answer such questions becomes an integral part of the experience of engaging with the Bible, enriching our understanding of this sacred text. Number 8, Aramaic Influence. Portions of the Old Testament, like parts of Daniel and Ezra, are actually in Aramaic. When Jesus says, Talitha, raise a girl from the dead, or excludes Elois, Lamas Abachani, my God, why have you forsaken me? From the cross, why does this matter? Because language shapes how we express and understand concepts. Aramaic nuances add another layer of cultural and linguistic context to the Bible. They help us to get closer to the world in which these stories took place, bridging the gap between ancient society and our modern understanding of these sacred texts. Number 9, comma-varying canons. These differences aren't just trivia. They reflect deep historical and theological divergences. For example, the extra books in the Catholic canon, known as the Deuterocanonical books, were accepted by the early Christian churches, but later removed by Protestant reformers who wanted to align more closely with the Hebrew Bible. So why is this important? Because the books that make up your Bible shape your faith, your traditions, and your understanding of God. Whether you're reading the Bible for spirituality, scholarship, or curiosity, knowing about these varying canons adds a rich layer of context, helping you appreciate the diversity within the unity of the ancient text. Number 10, handwritten copies. This was my favorite. Imagine dedicating years of your life to meticulously transcribing just one book. That was the reality for many monks before the advent of the printing press. Handwriting each copy of the Bible was not just a laborious task. It was considered a holy endeavor. Scribes often worked in scriptoriums, special rooms within monasteries, where they would spend countless hours writing, often in challenging conditions, poor lighting, cold temperatures, and the requirement for absolute silence. The tools they used were also rudimentary. Imagine being a quill made from a bird feather that you would have to frequently dip into ink. Errors were not an option. A single mistake could invalidate entire manuscript and mean starting anew. And it wasn't about just copying text. These handwritten Bibles were often adorned with beautiful illustrations and intricate marginalia, turning each book into a unique piece of art. It wasn't just a job, it was a calling. Many monks believed that they were doing God's work, preserving the sacred text for future generations. So the next time you easily access a Bible online or grab a printed copy off your shelf, remember the years of meticulous labor that went into preserving this ancient text. In closing, thank you for joining me on this eye-opening exploration of the Bible, lesser known aspects. We've delved into everything from its seamless compilations to its linguistic intricacies and the painstaking labor that went into preserving it for future generations. Remember, the Bible isn't just a book. It's a multi-layered tapestry woven through history, influencing and reflecting diverse cultures, beliefs, and traditions. As you turn its pages next time, you'll have a deeper appreciation for its hidden intricacies that make it not just a book of faith, but a monumental achievement of human civilization. Until our next journey, stay curious and keep exploring. These points offer just a glimpse into the rich and complex history of this ancient text.